Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, talking Wolves Pels, a blowout win for Minnesota on Friday. Lots of garbage time. You love to see it. Also tonight, Wolves Pacers. Wolves lost this Pacers team a week ago when they were shorthanded. They're back to basically full strength. We'll break down both matchups, both games upcoming. Welcome in. You are Locked On Wolves.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Ben Beecken. I am the host of Locked On Wolves. Today's episode is brought to us by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Happy Monday, everybody. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend. It is also a Timberwolves game day. They had the weekend off. No game Saturday, Sunday. Tonight, they're in Indiana, back on the road to take on the Pacers, a team they lost to just last week, and a very shorthanded Pacers team with basically no starters playing the entire game. And here we are. The Wolves lost, and now this Pacers team is a full-strength team. So we'll talk about that matchup later, what to look out for. It's actually, I think, a challenging matchup for Minnesota overall. I would have said that before they lost to a shorthanded version of this Pacers team. So we'll talk about that toward the end of the show. I do want to start with the positivity of the Pelicans game on Friday night. I know Zion didn't play, but guess what? We just talked about how the Wolves got beat by a depleted Pacers team last week. And so, you got to play the teams that are in front of you. And the Wolves may have an easy schedule now, but as we've seen, they don't always win the games they're supposed to win. So you still have to win, and they won decisively on Friday. We'll talk about everything that went well. So a lot to get to here. A big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch on the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And a reminder, you can subscribe to the daily Locked On Wolves newsletter at LockedOnDaily.com. The newsletter will be right in your inbox every day. It's one stop for Ultimate Wolves and NBA coverage delivered right to your email inbox. Sign up for free right now at LockedOnDaily.com. All right. So coming on the heels of last week's Monday night loss to a depleted Pacers team, Wednesday's loss to a Pelicans team that, yes, had Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum, but also a Pelicans team that was missing, countless other rotation guys, starters over the course of the season, DeJounte Murray, Trey Murphy, among others. This Pacers team on Friday did have CJ McCollum. They did not have Zion Williamson, and it was not a close game. Minnesota was up 6 at the end of the first quarter. They ended up 14 at halftime. The third quarter is where they really separated themselves. A little bit of a sluggish start, like right out of the gate, but not sluggish from an effort standpoint, which was an issue against the Pelicans last Wednesday. And yes, it's not great that we keep talking about that. But that wasn't an issue Friday. Minnesota's issue out the gate was they were just missing open shots, which was what happened down the stretch a couple of different times last week, where they were getting good shots like the Pelicans game Wednesday and missing them. That carried over into Friday's game, although the effort level was there. The activity level on both ends of the floor was there. I should note Joe Ingles started the game. Everyone's heard the story by now, but his family and his son, who has autism, was there, and he wanted to make sure his son got to see him play, or the Wolves wanted to make sure that was the case. And Chris Finch, obviously very classy, allowed Joe Ingles to start, had a runner on the first possession go in and out, and also had a three-pointer go in and out, was 0-3 shooting in those 6 minutes. But Joe was not the problem. I mean, like, the Wolves were right in it early. It's not like the Pelicans jumped out to a lead. It's just Minnesota could have been up more. They just missed open shots. So that's how the game started. But then as it went on, the Wolves started making those shots, and they kept generating those open looks. And defensively, they were great in this game. I mean, New Orleans only had 48 points at halftime. They only scored 45 points total in the second half of this game. So to hold an NBA team to 93 points is a really nice showing, albeit a team without Zion. They held New Orleans to 11 of 31 shooting from outside the arc, and I thought the three-point defense was much better. Yes, there was some regression to the mean that was due for New Orleans after the way they shot the ball earlier in the week, and frankly also the way the Pacers shot the ball on Monday. Like, the Wolves were due for some better luck there. But I did think their activity level, the way they guarded the three-point line, was better in this game. To me, though, what stood out the most, there's probably three things. I'll start with the paint and the work on the glass. And it doesn't jump out in the box score. Minnesota was only a +3 on the glass overall. They were also only a +3 on the offensive glass. They had 10 offensive rebounds to 7 for New Orleans. But second chance opportunities, I believe New Orleans had 1 second chance point in this game. Minnesota did a great job of limiting that. And that's a concern when you play a Pelicans. Now, no Zion obviously matters, but Misi's a good offensive rebounder. Kelly Olynyk's a good offensive rebounder. They've also got guys that'll sneak in there and get involved. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl and Jose Alvarado. Like, they've got some guys that can be a problem on the offensive glass. And as a team, they're a good offensive rebounding team. But the Wolves did a good job of shutting that off. They also did a really good job of protecting the paint overall, outscoring New Orleans in the paint 54-30. To hold an NBA team to 30 points in the paint is significant. It also speaks to how depleted the Pelicans are in terms of guys who can create off the dribble. Like, that's not CJ McCollum, right? He's not getting to the rim and scoring on you. Misi isn't doing that. Alvarado's shooting from the perimeter more than he's getting to the rim. Kelly Olynyk is more of a perimeter-oriented guy, and if he's scoring in the post, it's not, post move in the paint. So if they're not getting offensive rebounds, they're not scoring in the paint. And the Wolves did a good job of making sure that was the case. Rudy Gobert was really good in this game. He had 15 and 11. He also had 3 assists and 3 steals. He didn't actually have any blocks. The Wolves as a team actually only had 1 block, and it was Dante DiVincenzo. But it didn't mean they didn't control the paint. And it was a combination of those factors. It was effort level for Minnesota. It was good perimeter defense, actually really good perimeter defense for Minnesota in this game. It was a lack of, frankly, ability to score at the rim from the Pelicans personnel, but also Gobert, among others, doing a good job in the paint too. That to me was really important. Again, doesn't jump out because the Wolves only had 1 block and they only out rebounded the Pelicans by 3. But that to me was key, is the way they control the paint. And to kind of underscore that, I mean, Chris Finch had Rudy Gobert on the floor when this was a 30-point game with 8 minutes left. Rudy actually led the team in minutes played with 30, and he by far led the team in plus minus with plus 34. A game the Wolves won by, what they win by 41 points. Gobert had a team high plus 34. Nobody else was better than a plus 24. And I thought that spoke to just how good Gobert was playing, that Finch left him on the floor. Now, he played a little bit less down the stretch the other night. But I thought it was good to see Rudy stay in the game, Chris Finch understanding how well he was playing and how important he was to the Wolves defense overall in this game. He was also good offensively. I thought he was active early in the game when the game before it was like a complete blowout. Rudy was involved in the offense as well and did a good job scoring. He shot 4 of 5 and he got to the line 8 times, was 7 of 8 at the free throw line. So that was all really good on Rudy's side as well. Another thing I'll hit here now that's related to that would be the fast break opportunities and turnovers that they force. Actually, let's do that next, because I'm actually going to link the next two things together. So the Wolves did a really good job turning the Pelicans over and generating some opportunities in the open floor. They just destroyed the Pelicans in terms of transition, fast break points, and then also sharing the basketball, which I think it was a season high in assists for the Wolves in this game. Really impressive, which is related to getting out, pushing the ball, pushing the pace, pushing in transition. But also in the half court, I thought they shared the ball well. So we'll talk about both those items here next. We'll do studs and duds quickly, and then we'll get into the matchup against the Indiana Pacers tonight. We'll do all that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our title sponsors over at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is really easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and instead start building actual wealth. When you start using Monarch, you're going to realize there's stuff that you're spending money on you don't realize to the level. Like for me, might be food delivery. Occasionally that's a thing. Sometimes on the weekends I get ahead of myself with food delivery, and then you take a step back. You're like, oh, wait a minute. But Monarch could help you save money and budget smarter. It's all in one convenience as well. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right. So I set this up already, but generating turnovers, or forcing turnovers, I should say, to generate fast break transition opportunities was huge in this game for Minnesota. The Pelicans, obviously, and this version of the Pelicans are going to turn it over a ton, and they did 26 turnovers, which is just mind-boggling. 26 turnovers for New Orleans. They gave up 37 points on those 26 turnovers, so that is not quite a point and a half, but like basically a point and a quarter per turnover given up or scored by Minnesota. That's a pretty good ratio. For context, in this game, the Wolves turned it over 14 times, which is a perfectly acceptable number, and only gave up 13 points on those turnovers, less than 1 point per turnover, or less than 1 point per opportunity, if you want to look at it from the Pelicans standpoint. The Wolves had 15 fast break points. New Orleans had 13, so they only won the fast break category by a bucket. But again, secondary break or semi-transition, the Wolves gave themselves plenty of opportunities because of the rate they turned New Orleans over. And that's where the Wolves do so much damage. A lot of times it's not the first guy down the floor. The Wolves don't have a ton of like overwhelming athletes that are trying to dunk on you or get to the rim in transition. They more have guys that are going to slow the pace just slightly and wait for a trail three. Maybe it's wait for a guy who's, wait for the big that's rim running to try, whether it's Nas or even Rudy, to try and score on that kind of secondary action within the transition opportunity. And a lot of times those aren't categorized in the official box score as fast break points, but those are the type of opportunities the Wolves give themselves when they turn the opponent over, getting guys sprinting to the corner for an open three. Jalen Clark, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Nas Reid, like all these opportunities that they're generating because of the defense, turning defense into offense. And it's not something the Wolves had done a great job of last year, but we've seen them increase their pace at times this year. We've seen them be more opportunistic and running off of steals. The Wolves had 14 steals in this game. So New Orleans had 26 turnovers. 14 of those were Minnesota steals. And they scored 37 points off of New Orleans turnovers and 15 fast break points overall for Minnesota. But again, not just pure fast break points. That feeds into the assist number. Minnesota had 40 assists in this game on 48 made shots, which is just incredible. Again, context, New Orleans had 20 assists on 34 made shots. So the Wolves had 14 more made shots, and they had 20 more assists than the Pelicans in this game. Obviously, a lot of that is fast break opportunities. It's hit-ahead passes that lead into secondary break opportunities to trailers, to second side of the floor action where they're swinging the basketball side to side. Early in the game, there were a couple moments where they weren't doing that when the offense was a little bit stagnant early in the game. But then they got back into swinging the basketball, using both sides of the floor, making the defense have a secondary reaction, move their feet. And the Wolves did a really good job of forcing all that in this game. And the passing was across the board in the open floor, in the half court. Minnesota had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that had at least 3 assists in this game. That's crazy to have 7 guys have 3 or more assists. They also had 4 players have 5 or more assists. Mike Conley had 6 assists in 10 minutes in this game and only 1 turnover. Nas Reid had 6 assists in 24 minutes and 0 turnovers. Ant had 5 assists in 26 minutes, also had 3 turnovers. And then you also had 5 assists from Julius Randle, who again had a very nice performance. 5 assists, 2 turnovers in 25 minutes for Julius. So the level of ball movement was very impressive across the board for Minnesota. And really everyone was sharing, even the garbage time guys, the last 8-9 minutes of the game, when, it would have been easy for Rob Dillingham or Bones Highland, these guys, to be concerned with getting their own shot. Bones only attempted 1 shot in 7 minutes, and he knocked down a 3. He had 2 assists in his 7 minutes. Rob Dillingham squeezed the trigger 4 times, but he also had a couple of assists and a couple of near assists. He had a hockey assist. There were really good decisions being made by that garbage time unit. And it's, I think, in part because they saw the starters and regular reserves that see regular rotation minutes actually do a really good job sharing the basketball themselves, and it bled into those reserve minutes. And that garbage time unit with the aforementioned Highland and Rob Dillingham, and then also TJ Shannon, Luka Garza, Josh Minott, those guys shared the basketball extremely well. It led to Luka Garza scoring 9 points on a perfect 4 of 4 shooting. There was a turnover charge to Dillingham that was a ball that I think got tipped before Garza got to it, but he maybe still could have handled it. And Luka didn't get charged for the turnover. There's a couple of those plays. I thought Dillingham was making all the right reads. So really nice to see that kind of across the board, the sharing of the basketball being really effective for Minnesota. And I guess that was my last point, was the assists. So again, 40 assists for Minnesota as a team in this game, 14 turnovers. You can handle 14 turnovers if you're going to have 40 assists. You're going to double up the other team's assist numbers. And that also led to, yes, a lot of points in the paint. It led to 20 free throws. The Wolves were 19 to 20 at the line. Led to 54% shooting from the field and 43% from three. 19 of 44. I talked about all the guys that had 3 or more assists. The Wolves also had 4 guys make 3 threes in this game. Nas made 3 threes. Dante made 3 threes. Jalen Clark was a perfect 3 of 3 from outside the arc, and Ant was 3 of 7 on threes. And so again, as a team, 43% on 44 attempts. Take that 10 times out of 10. All right, let's hit studs and duds. This is a weird one because it was over so early. Nobody played more than 30 minutes. Rudy played 30, and actually nobody else played more than 26. You had 7 guys play between 20 and 30 minutes, and you had everybody on the roster play at least 6 minutes. Everybody that was active for this game played at least 6 minutes in this game. So a bit weird to kind of parse this. So I'm going to kind of combine, everything that happened in this game. Like, we have to consider garbage time too, but I don't know. I guess maybe there wouldn't be anybody that stands out there as much anyway. I'm going to go with Rudy. Rudy was great. Talked already about him a little bit, so I won't spend too much time here, but 15 points on 5 shots. Take that. 7 of 8 at the line, 4 of 5 from the field, 11 boards, including 2 offensive rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, no blocks, only 1 turnover, and a plus 34 in a game the Wolves won by 41. Rudy was fantastic in this game. I'm also going to go Julius Randle. He was very good. 20 points on 11 shots. Also solid efficiency. 7 of 11 shooting. He was 2 of 5 from three-point range. That means he was 5 of 6 on twos and a perfect 4 of 4 from the line. He had 6 boards, 4 offensive rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals in this game for Julius Randle in just 25 minutes. We'll take a 26, 5, and 2 from Julius Randle any day of the week. So Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert are both studs. Ant played well. I'm not going to give him the stud in this game. I'm actually going to go, I don't know. I'm kind of like, I guess I'll go Jaden McDaniels. He was good defensively. They needed him in this game. There's still some perimeter guys that can score a little bit for New Orleans, and I thought he was good. 17 points on 10 shots, continues to play very well. Knocked down both 3-point attempts, including an above the break 3, which was nice to see. Had a 3-point opportunity. He converted. Nasty dunk that he had too, by the way. 5 rebounds, 1 steal, only 1 turnover. We'll take that night from Jaden. I consider Nikhil. Nikhil only had 8 points on 6 shots in 23 minutes, but I thought he was great defensively. Had 3 assists as well, a couple of rebounds. He played very well. Dante DiVincenzo was good, knocked down 3 threes. Nas was solid, a bit more of a high usage night for him, 13 shots in 24 minutes, but nice to see him score the ball. Had 15 and 6 and 0 turnovers. 6 assists, that is. 15, 6, and 5. Actually, I could have given it to him over Jaden, but I thought Jaden's activity level was great overall in this game, and it was good to see him kind of continue his recent strong stretch of play. I don't have any duds. Everyone played well. I know Joe Ingles had an 0 in 6 minutes, but that was a great story. I thought, he moved the ball well. Like, he did what you'd expect. We talked about garbage time. I thought everybody played well in garbage time. Minot was active, even though there weren't really any numbers. Garza scored 9 points. Bones Highland made good decisions, 2 assists, 1 of 1 shooting for 3 points. TJ Shannon was fine. Rob Dillingham was very good. Jalen Clark somehow only played 14 minutes in this game. I on Friday was clamoring for him to play more on the heels of the not playing enough the last time against the Pelicans. And he played more when it mattered, and then he actually wasn't on the floor in garbage time because he's too valuable for this rotation now. They can't have him out there. He had a nice dunk in transition, 3 made threes in this game on 3 attempts, 11 points, a couple of steals in 14 minutes, had another steal in the backcourt that led to an offensive opportunity for the Wolves. He's super good. He's just a good basketball player, and he's got to play 20 minutes a game, at least. Like, they got to find a way to do it. But he was great in this game. Conley, I mentioned, no points in 10 minutes. He had 6 assists and 1 turnover in 10 minutes. It was a plus 18 in just 10 minutes of play. So really nice game for Mike as well. All right. Let's move on and talk Wolves Pacers. The Wolves have Indiana tonight. We'll talk about what to expect. This is a different Pacers team than the Wolves saw just 1 week prior. And this time they're in Indianapolis as well. So we'll talk about that matchup here next. All right. Wolves Pacers last week. Indiana played without, a bunch of guys. They were missing see, I got my list here. Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner had a personal, like a family situation. Pascal Siakam did not play. And then Andrew Nembhard was ejected during the game. That altercation's a strong word, but that disagreement that he and Rudy Gobert had. And those guys are all going to be there. Benedict Mathurin was the only like normal starter, like guy you're worried about that started and played that whole game after the Nembhard ejection. But now everybody else is back. Like you look at their injury report, the only guy in the injury report is Isaiah Jackson, who's been out for the season all year. So, like, this is a healthy Pacers team, a team that is now winning as well. They had lost to the Bucks prior to the win over Minnesota. Since then, they beat the Mavs by 4, they beat the Nets by 6, and they beat the Nets again by 5. So, not exactly the stiffest competition, but it's a Pacers team that's back on the right track. They've got 41 wins, just like the Wolves, and they shot the lights out last week and still managed to only win by a bucket. I mean, it took a superhuman effort from Obi Toppin of all people to drop 34 and 10 and 7 made threes, a career high that downed Minnesota. And it still took overtime. Like it was a game Minnesota should have won. But now these dudes are all back and the Pacers are playing well. And Indiana is a good team. I mean, they're like a top half of the league team, probably a top 12 team in the NBA, I would say. They are barely top 10 in offense. They're right now 10th on cleaning the glass. The Wolves, by the way, are 9th in essentially offensive rating. They're 15th in defense. What the Pacers do good at, or do well, I should say, are areas that actually don't jive well for the Wolves. The Pacers don't turn it over a lot, which means the Wolves have to stay disciplined defensively. They also make threes. They're 5th in effective field goal percentages in offense, according to Cleaning the Glass. And overall, they are 8th in three-point percentage. Three-point rate isn't as impressive. Like they're bottom 3rd in the league in terms of their three-point rate attempts per game, or they're 23rd. But when they shoot them, they make them. They've got a bunch of dudes that are solid three-point shooters. Halliburton's 38%. Siakam and Turner are both 39.5%. Basically, everyone that takes them is solid. Mathurin's 36%. Aaron Nesmith, 42%. Like they've got guys that are going to can do damage from outside the arc. And that's something you got to consider. I didn't even mention earlier that Nesmith was didn't play the other night against the Wolves either. So like just a bunch of dudes that were missing. All that to say, shooting the basketball is something they could do well, and they could play a lot of different ways. They still play fast. They, as I mentioned, they don't turn it over. They're top 5 in assists. Like they are just a smart, solid offensive team. Rick Carlisle teams tend to be that way. They share the ball. They shoot a good amount of threes. They push the pace when they can. They're just a really solid offensive team, and they're much better defensively than they were. You look at the last couple of years, especially last year, how they were just, play fast, outscore teams. Now this year they're defending a little bit. They're not a great defensive team, and the Wolves shouldn't have an issue. I mean, remember, the Wolves are now a top 10 offense. But what concerns me more is the ability the Pacers have to score almost at will, which happened last week when all those guys were out anyway, because they're well coached and they know how to play within the system, and they put up 132 points, in overtime. But take out overtime, they had 117 in regulation anyway in 48 minutes. So this is a dangerous offensive team, and the Wolves have to do better than they did last week. I don't know, adjustment wise, it's such a different team, like what that even is, other than playing harder. Limited offensive rebound opportunities. I mean, the Pacers had 14 offensive rebounds last Monday against Minnesota. So that's another opportunity, or another area that the Wolves could shore up a little bit. Defending without fouling as usual. I know they out free throwed the Pacers by like 15 last week, but 13. But so they still allowed the Pacers to shoot 23 free throws. And that's one of the ways that Indiana can get easy offense. It's not like a massive part of their game, but they can do it. And like Halliburton didn't play. Like Halliburton knows how to get to the free throw line. Siakam even more so. Like that's an area that the Wolves need to be a little bit careful with as well. So Wolves Pacers tonight. I'm going to pull the line real quick over at FanDuel and see how much the line is. I actually would bet the Pacers are probably favored. I'd been kind of saying flippantly last week that I thought the Wolves would be favored in each of these games upcoming, and there actually isn't a line over at FanDuel. So recording this early enough on Sunday that there's no line. So we'll see what this looks like. My guess is the Pacers are probably favored by a point and a half, something like that. But we'll see, and it should be a lot of fun. It's obviously a very important game for the Wolves, as they all are now. But I mean, especially given a couple of the upcoming games. I know overall the Wolves have an easy upcoming schedule, but this little like 1-game road trip to Indianapolis is important for Minnesota. They go back home to play Phoenix on Friday. They have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. Phoenix on Friday, Detroit on Sunday, both at home, both winnable games, but the Suns are playing a lot better here of late. Detroit obviously has given the Wolves problems and is a much improved team. Then they go 5-game road trip at Denver, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia, at Milwaukee, at Memphis, which is the front end of a road home back-to-back, home for Brooklyn and Utah to finish the season. And right now, the standings outlook as of this recording, again, early enough on Sunday that there's no finals in the NBA, but the Wolves are in a virtual tie with the Clippers for the 7-8 spots and a half game behind the Golden State Warriors, who have played one less game than Minnesota, and they're up 1 game in the loss column. So if the Wolves go on a bit of a run here this week and the Warriors and Clippers just stumble a little bit, the Wolves could easily find themselves in sixth in the West. But if not, I mean, they're 5 up on the Kings to stay in the 8 spot. So that's looking much more comfortable. But they don't want to be in the 8 spot, right? You want to get yourself to the 6. And, I guess you'd prefer to be in 7. So you at least get home court advantage, even though the Wolves have been arguably better on the road than at home, even though the records are almost identical. But all that to say, important game against the Pacers. We'll have the live postcast over at Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube. Jack and Luke will have it for you tonight. Of course, if you can't catch it live following the game, you can listen to the audio right here on this audio feed at Locked On Wolves. I'll be back on Tuesday morning early with the Locked On Wolves post-game podcast. So be able to catch that right here on this audio feed tomorrow morning. Big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every single day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. You can also watch in the Locked On Sports Minnesota app on both Roku and Amazon Fire TV. A reminder, you can subscribe to the daily email newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free right now at lockedondaily.com. You'll get that email in your inbox every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Again, lockedondaily.com. Of course, the Locked On Wolves, the Locked On Network is your local experts on the biggest stories. And of course, Locked On Wolves, this podcast is part of said Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast, and we'll catch you next time.